making that happen. We got a preliminary approval to do that from the guy, and Barry is holding him to it. Because the owner of that property has changed again. So, and it's going to change again.
Really?
They're fixing it up to flip it. Huh?
How weird.
Well, they're fixing it up to flip it. That's what they're doing.
Huh.
Okay, but you've seen how that Larry doesn't have to go over and paint the wall anymore.
Good.
There's no place to put graffiti.
Did you put the graffiti on it originally?
No, just covered it up.
Just takes it off.
Okay, we're now at the financial statements and the payments of claims. We've all had a chance to take a look at the financials. Are there any comments or any discussion? Now, these are several financials.
I had a question about the general fund
Okay.
and the rent income.
Okay.
I would assume it's $6,300 a month. I mean, I forgot how much it is.
Well, that's what it was last month, yes. It varies,
Why does it vary?
because it's a percentage rent.
There's
What was-
also a minimum, right?
Yeah. The minimum payment is $52.50.
I see.
How long have we been clearing that and going over?
This is the first month this year that we have received rent in excess of our expenses.
Which is wonderful.
In a rarity.
Plumbing seems to be getting in a lot of trouble, right?
Say that again?
Plumbing seems to be a big issue.
We're way down on plumbing expenses. We've replaced almost every pipe in the joint. So
And what about the boiler? Is that what I read? Something that.
Oh, there was hot water that was a while ago, I think.
but we rebuilt that 2 years ago.
That was just what I read yesterday.
Okay.
It's an aging asset. And the thing too about that is the rent used to come in to the enterprise fund, but the general fund is, we made a decision at a couple meetings ago where the general fund would essentially fund the building because golf shouldn't have to fund this aging asset. Well, when we did that, we also then had to put the revenue coming in from the restaurant into the general fund. So it would be in the right area.
Okay.
But as a follow-up question, Vinny, was it about looking at the rent? If we get the rent up to around 11 or 12, is that the perceived break-even point, or was it lower than that? To say, given our operating expenses for the building, the utilities, all that is consumed in part by Noonan's, if we get our rent up to a certain point, that was the figure that sticks in my mind, around 11,000, or is that just?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know where that comes from.
Okay.
They had put in a maximum rent deal, which is unheard of and will not be in the new contract. I'll guarantee it, because I'm writing it. And we ran into that one time last year when they got to the maximum rent, and it saved them about $600 or $700 rent for that month.
Okay. They've got how many more years to go to?
The contract will expire effectively January of next year.
Okay.
Of 2016. The thing about it was, when we first got started, we had to have some revenue coming in from upstairs or scrape the building off. And that was as good a deal as we could do at that time. And things are changing, and Mitch is a super guy to work with compared to the original guy. And I mean, we're able to use this guy's much more reasonable. Okay,
But we've been working on just a new rental agreement. And the old one was 40 pages, of which 4 paragraphs are devoted to restaurant operations.
So
Yeah.
how are you changing it?
It's gonna be a restaurant lease.
Okay.
Because that reflects Rob,
Specific
is that
restaurant.
Rob's old lease, was that, go back to,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and the group that we had together then, you know, and
Rob's still really on the hook for that one until January, but this guy's performing, so Robert never comes in. Isn't that right, Jim?
well, he's out of it. I mean,
Right.
he's bought out, but
Okay. But our agreement, yeah, okay. Everything's working there. Okay, can we get a motion to approve the financial statements that's gonna be for November, December, no, October, November, December 2014, January, February, March of 2015.
I so move.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And now I assume, well, let's do this too. Let's get one more motion for the approval of the invoices and ratifying the payments. We need a motion for that.
I so move.
And a second. I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the approval of the invoices and checks? Vote. No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Okay, that's all financial.
Well, we got the bond.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Oh, now, wait a minute. Now, the next thing now is the 2014 audit.
okay, I signed an audit agreement with Wagner Barnes, who has been doing the audit since we've been in business. And they are working on it, and I will expect to have one of their audits visit us, you and I, in the next month or so.
You and I, who's that?
Mr. Business Manager of the golf course,
Okay.
Mr. Ransford.
Ransford, okay, very good.
Sounds good.
Okay. Do we need to vote on that, Sean?
No, you'll be able to ratify it at your October meeting.
So we're okay there?
You can make some, just some general direction that, for it to be filed based on, review of the board. Since you haven't seen it yet, you really can't approve anything at this time.
Right. All we're doing is just saying, go forth with the audit.
Correct.
Okay. The next item has to do with the bond refinancing and additional capital funding status. Van, do you want to talk about that, or you want?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, we talk about it together here. Michael Lund is back with us so far as having moved over to his new company. And so he came out and had lunch with us a couple of weeks ago. And we've had other visits from him. Basically, we're looking at 2 options when the bonds need to be rolled over. One is going to be placement with a bank, which is presently our scenario with U.S. Bank, to say we go with that type of institution, or we go to the open market and we have to become rated, and we have to have some due diligence performed. The difference between the 2 sources of bonding funds basically relates to banks can only go pretty much 20 years at the most. Whereas if we go to the open market, we can get up to 25. Also, Michael Lund indicated that the amount of money we could borrow from institutional banks was around $833,000. Whereas if we go to the open market, they're more flexible. We might be able to borrow up to 1.3 mil. We're probably going to be looking at this very seriously at the end of this year, with the idea that it's going to have to be, the trigger is going to have to be pulled obviously in 2016. And they recommended that this thing be wrapped up pretty much by August. The actual due date, I think, is October, okay, on that. So we're going to be fluctuating on rates and stuff. The good news about deferring it as much as we can is the prepayment penalty will continue to drop. But at the same time, if interest rates also continue to drop, we're still we get lower interest rates, but our prepayment penalty doesn't drop as much. If the prepayment penalty goes up, then our prepayment cost actually, I should say, if the rates go up, our prepayment penalty drops. So that benefits it. So, be careful what you wish for. At this junction, really, why don't you talk about the issues of the golf course that we're going to look at?
Or we're gonna put the money?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm gonna kind of reset here. Vinny is working with Diane, and we're also working with the bonding people, Michael Lund. Now, let me tell you this. Michael Lund used to work for Piper Jaffray. He's moved to a different company. He is gonna be able to assist us in a favorable way, and we've been working with him all along. And we are going to go with that group. Go ahead.
And I might say that I have advised Simmons and Wheeler, Diane, that we are continuing to work with Michael and Brian Stelmack,
Yep.
who
Right.
both used to be with Piper Jaffray and are now with Stifel.
And there's another issue. We probably will be eventually changing from U.S. Bank to the bank
Well, that's-
changing the bank. Our old banker went to another bank, and he says he can do us a better job than U.S. Bank. So that's kind of what's going on.
Where is he now?
He's a-
NBH Bank,
yeah.
it's a conglomerate. Community Banks of Colorado is one of them. They got a half a dozen.
Now, here's the intent. We had a 30-year mortgage originally on this when we first set up. And we set it up to balloon October of 2016. We got to pay the balloon off. And we did that originally, and that's the way it was all signed, sealed, and delivered.